We're back here on a Monday in my own words, the podcast, best form of Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information you will find anywhere. Touchdown Alabama magazine with yours truly, your man Stephen M. Smith. Got the man John Ivory in here as well. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the show, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you can have all the updates, alerts on your Crimson Tide. New to the show, new to the network and the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. But we go to the In My Own Words hotline where we pick up my good man here, Mac Hereford, former Alabama wide receiver, played from 2016 to 2019, part of two national championships, part of two SEC championships, a national championship in the 2017 season. Mac, how you feeling, man? I hope you're doing well.
Steven, thank you so much for having me on. I always love being a part of the show. I'm doing great and hanging in there.
Outstanding, folks. If you're just tuning in, we got Mac Hereford on the line right now, former Crimson Tide wide receiver. And Mac, last week was awesome, and it was awesome for you getting the chance to watch so many of your teammates pursue their professional dreams, getting drafted to play, pro ball, and even had a couple of guys to sign undrafted rookie free agent contracts. What were your emotions like on last week, just watching all of these guys come off the board, all of these guys fulfill their dreams and be able to, take care of their families?
It was wild, to say the least. I really had a great time last week, being able to, watch these guys get selected, and then, like you said, the other guys get picked up in free agency. It was like I was living vicariously through their moments, just getting to, I'd seen them work so hard and play alongside me, and just getting to see them, accomplish these big things and share that moment with their families. Just it was awesome. The suspense and just, when they got picked or selected, I couldn't be any happier.
Now, I know you don't like to pick and choose here, Mac, but if you had to pick which player of this group of former Tide guys went to the best possible spot in terms of their skill set, who went to the best spot in your mind?
Yeah, like you said, it's hard for me to pick sometimes. I think that everyone, with their ability, went to a great place. One in particular that stood out to me that I think is just awesome is Xavier McKinney. The Giants talked about them needing a safety that was able to do it all, a guy who would play in the box, a guy who could play deep, and a guy who could cover a slot. And, with all these, spread sets, a lot of wide receivers on the field these days, that's you need that guy. You need an extra DB. And Xavier McKinney brings all those things and more to the Giants defense with his intangibles, and locker room presence and just the kind of guy he is, a great leader and extremely great work ethic. So I think he's a great pick and will really do well and thrive in that New York defense.
Now, continuing with X here, talk about his communication, because a lot of people don't harp on that enough. And here's a guy in X that Alabama did not have Dylan Moses last year. It didn't have Joshua McMillan this past season, so you're playing with two young freshman linebackers. So X kind of has to do a little bit more than what he wanted to do, but he was able to put it all together and help the Tide stay in the top 20 in terms of scoring, defense, and total defense. Just talk about how a strong communicator this young man is.
You said, I would say that the linebackers are usually the guys who are the vocal communicators on the defense, getting things in place and kind of, a lot of times just telling different guys what to do and where to be in certain situations. But because we had the younger guys, who were still learning the defense and adjusting, Xavier did have to step up, and he's a really good communicator. He's very just to the point. He doesn't say too much. But when he does say it, it's important. And he just does a good job of that, communicating to the different guys and explaining to them why things are the way they are. And you can see that too, not just on the field, but the way he coaches up the younger guys.
If you're just tuning in to In My Own Words, the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined live via the phone line with former Alabama receiver Mac Hereford, who played from 2016 to 2019 under Nick Saban. Now, Mac, at this point in time, this is new for everybody. This global crisis, this coronavirus pandemic, something that you can't control. But for athletes, when you're on this type of a break like this, when you don't know what's going to happen, what's going to transpire, how do you keep yourself loose? How do athletes keep themselves in shape? How do you keep yourself in the best physical and mental mindset during this time of uncertainty?
I think the best, first of all, I think it stinks for a lot of guys who are not able to have access to the things they need, whether it be weights or, a facility or field to run on due to the circumstances of where they may be. But, it goes to controlling the controllables. And, you got to realize that the thing you can control is staying in shape, and that there's different ways to do that, whether it be running, band exercises. I've been talking a lot with Jalen Moody, and he's been able to, do these resistance bands exercises that they're sending them, and doing body weight workouts, as well as staying just really great shape by running around in the neighborhood and wherever he can find to do that, while still practicing social distancing. And I think that's what it takes. You just have to be very motivated and try to find somewhere. And if you can't find somewhere, then try to make it work in the space you have.
Now, we're all kind of keeping our hands crossed here that there will be a college football season. We're all keeping our hands crossed that at some point this summer, this virus will burn out, will burn off, will die out, and we can get back to some sense of normalcy, especially in sports. But in the event that there is a football season and the players come back to campus and they're able to take part in practices, how important will it be to, for these guys to have that passion, but understand I can't be getting my teammates hurt out here on the field?
I think it'll be extremely important, for those guys to have that balance. And I think the main thing is that, the football program has to do a good job of letting the guys get back into the sport at a certain pace, and make sure kind of everybody's not on the same track, because they won't be, but, a similar track and an ability where their bodies are ready to play. Because it would be bad if, some guys haven't been able to have access to things that other guys have, and, there'd be a gap, and it would create a lot of injuries.
Now, I know that you're trying to pursue, your fifth year elsewhere, but just from the outside looking in, being able to see what the new sports performance staff of Dr. Matt Ray and David Ballou have been doing for the Crimson Tide, what are you liking so far about their approach to the game? I know it's not what Scott Cochran did, and Coach Cochran had a huge imprint on this program, but just you observing, what are you liking so far from Ballou and Dr. Ray?
Yeah, they're using an approach that I haven't seen as much, and that's more of the science approach, I would say. He had, with a doctor, they like to really evaluate and think what's best for each player. And the thing I think I like the most about it is I've been talking to guys like Pierce Quick, and there's workouts. He's a lineman. There's workouts that are set just for him, and it's not necessarily putting the most weight on his back, but figuring out what amount of weight he needs to put on his back and what kind of exercises he needs to do to improve, as an individual in that position. And so I would just say specific position stuff and stuff that translates to the field, them kind of going through that and using the science behind and explaining it to the guys is something that I find very impressive and just, really cool.
If you're just joining the show, in my own words, the podcast, we're live here with former Alabama wide receiver Mac Hereford, played for the Crimson Tide from 2016 to 2019, part of two SEC championship teams, a national title team in 2017. And Mac, we all know what Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle can do. We've watched these two young men grow. We've watched them be productive. Who steps up as the third receiver? Do you see it being one guy? Do you see it being a combination of guys? Who is that third option for the Crimson Tide in the upcoming season?
For sure. I think that, it's a great question. It's tough. Like you said, we know that Waddle and Smitty, Devontae Smith can really ball, and they'll, be the one and the two. And then, like you're saying, there's going to be a third spot. It's very hard to know. It's really a great opportunity for someone to take that spot and really earn it, because of the fact that the group of guys fighting for it is just so talented. You have Slade, who I could see, being that third guy because he's an athlete. He's really developed the wide receiver position. And we've seen him be able to play wildcat and do, anything they need him to do on the field. But then you have guys like Shavers who have the height and the body and the strength and they're a big physical wide receiver who can make great catches. Xavier Williams, who I don't think a lot of people talk about, who, in practice I've been able
He's
to
an underrated guy.
Oh, very underrated. And he has something that a lot of people haven't seen, and I hope they get to see at some point, is his ability to make plays on the ball. There was a time in, I think, my sophomore year, his freshman year, that he was on the scout team, just killing these DBs. Guys who are in the league just jumping up in the air and catching these deep balls, and nobody could stop him, and it drove Coach Saban nuts. But so Xavier Williams, and then depending on what they do with Chadarius Townsend, he's also a guy who could contend for that spot because he's just so fast. I don't think I've seen guys, with his speed. And then Mechie, is John Mechie. A lot of people have heard about him, and he's a guy who's just such a solid receiver, extremely fast and quick and able to explode out of his breaks so quickly. I think that all those guys have a fair shot at being that third guy. It's going to be who wants it enough and, which guy stands out to the coaches the most.
Going to be very interesting to continue to track that conversation on the potential number three wide receiver for the Crimson Tide. But, Mac, you've had a lot of great moments with Coach Saban. I know myself here in the media, Coach Saban likes to joke with us. He likes to roast us at times. He likes to poke fun at us. He says he appreciates what we do. Sometimes I wonder if that's true or not, but I'll take his word for it. But you are around him for 4 years. So what were some of the funniest moments that you had with Coach Saban?
Yeah, there's one moment in particular I can think about that rings a bell right now, just with Tua recently being drafted. It was Tua's freshman year during fall camp. I was on the side, on one side with Chadarius Townsend. I was playing the outside receiver, and I was on the ball, and it was a motion play to a wide receiver to get a reverse. And being on the ball, you can't reverse when you're on the ball, or motion when you're on the ball. And so it was clearly going to Chad, but I was just in the moment and I was just pumped. I'd been, fall camp was getting hot, and I looked over at Tua and he motioned Chad, but it looked like he motioned to me. And so I gun it and I just go straight for the ball and take that thing right from Tua. And people are kind of confused. And Chadarius knew that he was supposed to get the ball. So he's kind of running after me thinking like, am I supposed to get the ball? Like, what's going on? The play ends, but later on that night when we're doing film evaluation with the team, Coach Saban, the play comes up and Coach Saban just looks back at everybody after the play and he pauses it and he goes, I mean, what is this, Canadian football or something? He's like, what in the heck are you guys doing out there? And I was embarrassed in the moment, very embarrassed, but my teammates found it really funny and comical. And, it was kind of a funny thing. Like after the fact, it really made me laugh.
You might have a CFL football future there, Mac. You might have one. We're live.
Who knows?
We're live here on the phone lines with Mac Hereford. If you're just tuning in to In My Own Words, the podcast, highest show in the streets here, with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, Hereford, former Alabama football wide receiver. Last one here for you, Mac, on my end. When you look at Jalen Hurts and Jalen getting drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 53 after all that he went through both at Alabama and Oklahoma, how big of a proud moment to see that young man with so much class, so much toughness, break through and get drafted in the manner that he did?
It was pretty unbelievable feeling. And it's awesome when not only am I happy, but, like my sister was sitting there watching and saying, just someone please pick Jalen, please pick Jalen. Just knowing what kind of guy he was and teammate he was to me, and what kind of person he was for the fans and everybody. And to see him just battle constantly through adversity. I mean, I think there's going to be a documentary or should be on him someday in his college career. Maybe an NFL story. It's just getting started, so you never know what else it can turn into. But it was a pretty crazy thing to see, and I was so excited. And a lot of people in the Eagles were thinking, or around the program, wondering why they would draft a quarterback when they have one, there already. But I mean, it's Jalen Hurts. Like anyone who can get him at that round in time should want to pick him up, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do there. I really think he'll make a big impact for them.
He's Mac Hereford, former Alabama wide receiver for the Alabama Crimson Tide, played from 2016 to 2019, part of 2 SEC championships and the national title in 2017. My man, appreciate you for coming on to spend some time with me here on the show, man. Take care, man. Be good.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. I hope everyone's doing well, and God bless.
Always awesome to have Mac Hereford there talking some football with him. We're going to go to another break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. Upon our return, we dive back into your phone calls, tweets, text messages, thoughts, questions, and concerns after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best of the Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.